If you're a school student, one of your fears and hurdles to complain against a sexual predator would probably be the risk of your examination marks being fudged. For a parent, in extreme cases, it could be a practical difficulty of finding a new school in the middle of an academic year if the environment is vitiated after calling out an offender, and if the family then decides that a new terrain is better than hostile undertones. This is why I believe many victims probably suffer in silence and bottle up that misery. The big mismatch between the magnitude of sexual crimes against school children and the actual number of complaints should set alarm bells ringing. Ironically, privacy and confidentiality of victims were the two primary objectives of the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences POCSO Act 2012. Has that been adequately reflected in the statute? I don't think so. If survivors are to be emboldened to speak up, then the Act must urgently be amended to necessitate suspension of the alleged offender within 24 hours of the receipt of a complaint, following a preliminary inquiry, if you want to follow the principles of natural justice, of course. External evaluation of examination answer scripts assigned to offenders, and if sought, admission in another school of the same board at any time during the academic year. It must be allowed as a matter of right. Although in this case it should be the perpetrator who should have to look for new pastures, perhaps bail in this case. While the allegations against a few schools have sparked justifiable outrage, the nature of public discourse has strayed into extraneous areas like caste and religious whataboutery, ostensibly stemming from a lack of awareness about the POCSO law. Now, there are three broad categories of offences: sexual assault under sections 3, 5, and 9, sexual harassment under section 11, and abetment and concealment under sections 16, 19, and 20, respectively. It is pertinent to note that, unlike the regular criminal jurisprudence of presumption of innocence, Section 29 of POCSO stipulates the presumption of guilt for sexual assault. This shifting of the burden of proof to that of innocence is a significant advantage for the prosecution. Now, did you know that it's not just a school or any institution that can report the alleged crime to the police? Section 19, subsection 1 places the onus on any person who has an apprehension or knowledge of an offence committed or likely to be committed. Contextually, this would include whistleblowers, it would include classmates, it would include seniors, other teachers, parents, any person. Now, the statute lays down such significant emphasis on reporting offences that it even penalizes non-reporting with 6 months imprisonment and or fine for individuals, and twice that penalty for institutional default under section 21(1) and 21(2). Now, another bone of contention that will inevitably crop up in trials is the interpretation of the term knowledge of the occurrence of offences. Does it necessitate written complaints or oral reports or third-party information passed on? Will that do? The Act is surprisingly silent on this aspect, although it lays down a mechanism on reporting cases to the police, and although it's been amended a few times. Under the defining section 2, subsection 2, there is a reference to falling back on definitions in the Indian Penal Code, the Juvenile Justice Act, and the Information Technology Act for such gaps. However, the term knowledge is not defined even in the Indian Penal Code or the statutes in question. The Supreme Court in Jyoti Prasad versus State of Haryana had held that a person can be supposed to know where there is a direct appeal to his senses. Black's Law Dictionary states that if one, by exercise of reasonable care, would have known a fact, he is deemed to have had constructive knowledge. So, in this case, they are referring to due diligence. Did you put systems in place? However, in a criminal trial, actual knowledge along with sexual intent in such cases could be questions of fact. Another glaring omission is the statutory timeline to report incidents to the police. In the case on point, the Chhattisgarh High Court in Kamal Prasad Patade versus State of Chhattisgarh 2016 held that the head of the institution is entitled to and should be allowed sufficient and reasonable time to find out the correct facts by making an inquiry at the institutional level before reporting the matter. Now, victims must be made aware of legal protection of their identity under Section 23 of POCSO, the non-intimidating in-camera nature of the trial, and a slew of judicial reassurances right from the Supreme Court landmark decision in State of Punjab versus Gurmeet Singh in 1996, much before POCSO came into being, to a division bench judgment of the Madras High Court in Aidwa versus State of Tamil Nadu in 2014. As for witnesses, under the proviso to Section 160 subsection 1 of the Code of Criminal Procedure, CRPC, no girl child, no lady, no male child below the age of 15 or a man above 65 years can be summoned to a police station as a witness. In such cases, their inquiry as witnesses can only be conducted at their residences. Similarly, under Section 91 subsection 2 CRPC, summons for the production of any documentary evidence would be deemed to be complied with if they are sent to the investigating officer without necessarily having to appear in person. Empowering our children and youth through self-defense classes and legal awareness as part of the curriculum, not some one-off, for the sake of appearing in the college or school magazine, that would be, in my opinion, more productive than slanging matches and hashtag wars.